Hello everyone, my name is Fyer-Huné. This is Fire for Films and I have the lovely John Bridgewater here, who is a man of many trades. He is a freelance videographer, editor and digital content producer. So, John, take it away.
Hi there, thanks for having me on. So as you just said, I'm a videographer and digital content producer. I'm based in Birmingham currently. I've always worked around the Midlands, apart from a year, which we'll talk about later on. But yeah.
Brilliant. So, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how did you get into everything that you do?
So I, at school, way back, even in GCSEs, I did media studies and I got an A star for it. And I was really nerdy and loved making film posts and stuff in Photoshop a long time ago. And I thought, oh, this would be really cool if I could actually do something with it. And then at college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. A lot of people did A levels. And then my dad said, there's a thing called a BTEC, you should check it out. And it was the idea of rather than exams, you would have, more coursework based things, which for filmmaking and TV production seemed a lot more logical to learn the skills rather than to be doing exams for other things. So that was it really. And I went to college in a place called Halezone, which is local to me. And they basically, every assignment had the theory side where you learned about what you're going to do. The middle bit, you wrote an essay about what you'd learn. And then the C section of the third section of it was always a practical thing. So you went out and shot whatever that was in that style. So it was a really good way of learning on the fly these different techniques and understanding why you were doing what you were doing, but just physically giving someone a camera and getting them in an edit suite and learning how to do those things was amazing really at 16, 17. I thought it was incredible. So I loved it. I then went on to university and I did a media and communications degree. And that was also, I'd say, more so theoretical, but I really enjoyed that. I did that in Birmingham as well, at Birmingham City Uni. And you basically learnt different modules. So at the start, I did a bit of web design, I did a bit of photography, a bit of as many different skill sets as I could do, just trying to learn all these different things. Are you still there? Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's frozen. Sorry. So what I did was doing all these different things was good because it made me learn all these different techniques. So I learned a bit about PR. I learned a little bit about marketing. So I tried to gain as much experience, as many different things as I could, because back when I went to uni, I feel like it wasn't a long time ago, but it was before social media really took off. So we were told to kind of get to know social media, because social media is going to be a big thing. And it was kind of learning how to make things for those platforms. And back then, there wasn't even loads of video content. A lot of it was images or graphics or GIFs or whatever you want to call them. So it was learning to do that kind of thing, which led to work experience. I went on the ITV apprenticeship scheme, which was basically you went for rounds of interviews, and then if you got to a certain level, they give you work experience. I met some contacts there, which was great because then I got some placements and I did some TV production running, which I never really thought about doing before, which was exciting, and I really enjoyed that. And then after doing that, that led to the contacts I met there then got me to go to different shows. So I learned really quickly what everyone has drilled into me, which was make good contacts and keep in touch with them because they will help you throughout. So we did that. And then after that, before I left uni, actually, someone approached me from a local PR company saying that they were setting up a video department, and they basically said, well, we've got an idea for what we want to do. And again, at this point, it's hard to look back now, but video wasn't a massive thing online then. It was quite a niche. There was YouTube and people put stuff on there, but there wasn't really, I don't think Twitter even supported video when I started. Facebook did, but just not to the same extent. It was still square. And on, if anyone can remember, on Instagram, it used to be, I think, 15-second clips you could have on a square box. So it's changed so much. So that's kind of what I started doing there. And I was with that company for 4 years. They rebranded and became a marketing agency as well. And I got to shoot all kinds of different things that I'd never been able to do if I'd set up freelance straight away. But again, they were like a PR and marketing agency. So I did a lot of corporate things, a lot of events, and meeting people, doing or like health and safety videos, just all sorts of really different things. It's hard to narrow it down. It was quite a wide thing, but I think the one through line through this, as you guys have probably heard already, is I always did quite varied things. I don't think I've ever actually specifically targeted one thing and just gone at that. It's kind of, everyone's kind of said to me, try and be able to apply yourself to as many things as possible, because then you are more likely to be able to get opportunities, because you can do a bit of this, a bit of that, and I think that's been my through line through this journey so far. And then now I'm currently freelance, because after I finished that role, I decided to take a year out with my partner, and we went traveling for 3 months, which was amazing. And then after that, we lived in Australia for a year. And when I got over there, I thought, I hadn't got my own camera equipment. I didn't particularly fancy investing in all the camera equipment, because we knew we were only going to be there for a year. So I bought a laptop, which I'm now speaking to you on right now, and I paid for my Adobe membership, and I just said, hey, I'm here as an editor. And before we arrived in the country, I just went on Facebook and looked for different event pages and groups, and I found one which was, you know, Melbourne jobs and all this kind of thing, but none had any video work. And then I eventually found one which was a local thing, talked about wedding videos in Melbourne. So it said messages because we need editors. And then I applied, and the guy was a bit like, why is this man messaging me from Cambodia saying he's going to be in the country in 6 weeks? This is very bizarre. And I kind of left it. And then that was that. And then the day after we arrived, I think, or maybe the day after we arrived in the country, jet lagged, I went to the shopping centre, bought some new clothes, because anyone who's been travelling will tell you your clothes get trashed. Bought smart clothes to go for this interview, and then the next day I was working for him, and then I still work for them now. When we moved back, we've set it all up remotely. So I do a lot of editing for Australian clients, which seems quite crazy now. But I built a portfolio over there, which I've been able to bring back to the UK. Including stuff for like Live Nation as well, the Live Nation Australia, New Zealand, the ticketing agencies doing promotions, that kind of thing. So really, really varied. When it's strange, because normally it's life, you just got to get on with it. But then when you actually sit back and review it, talking to you now, it's been quite, not an odd mix, but just the career's always kind of led to an opportunity, and you go to the next thing, but it hasn't always been planned out in a set path. And I think that's one thing I would say, is just be open to opportunities, because things happen quite quickly, and then you go with it. And yeah.
That's crazy. It's crazy that you literally walked in the country and then next minute you had a job. That's just brilliant. And it shows that the more you network, the better it is. Do you know what I mean? And people say it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think it's both, but definitely who you know helps big time.
I would say to that, there definitely is an aspect of who you know. There is, but to know those people, you've got to have worked hard enough to get to a point where they want to recommend you. And I think sometimes people presume if they know somebody, then they can get in, and there can be aspects of that, but realistically, you've got to impress these people, because in the field we are in, the amount of people that are going for the same thing, it's very, very difficult to start without any contacts around you and think you're going to impress people. You've got to work harder or smarter. There's levels to it, but I think you will be found out pretty quickly if you're not willing to put that effort in. That's one thing I found out throughout, which is even back when I interviewed for ITV years ago, just for these work experience opportunities, there were literally hundreds of us, and it was terrifying trying to just get to a point where you could get to the next bit. But if you wanted it enough, you could get it. But my God, you had to prove it. And I think some people thought because they got there, they'd already made it, and it doesn't work like that. I don't think anyone ever thinks they've made it in our industry. I think you're continuously chasing the next thing until you retire, I hope. And it's hard. I don't know.
No, I definitely agree. We're very hungry, and it's a very competitive.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously they want the best. So like you said, you've got to prove that you're the best, because no one walks into it like, oh, I'm just here. And if they do, that's amazing, because I don't know anyone who's done that, to be honest. But wow, what a journey. And the traveling. Do you miss traveling?
I do. I really do. It's really odd for me, because I'm sat where I edit now. So I have this lovely room, this lovely desk, And obviously, you're editing all this footage, which is from Australia. So sometimes I get quite confused thinking I'm still there because it doesn't feel that long ago. And I'm hearing Australian voices all day, and I'm seeing where I used to live all day in this footage. So it makes me feel like I don't miss it so much because I'm almost in that world, if that makes any sense. But at the same time, it makes you miss it more because then you're like, oh, I'm in Birmingham. Okay. So no, I miss. When we went traveling, I bought a tiny camera. I'm looking at that. There's a tiny little Sony RX100 camera, and I'd never shot manually for photos. So I said, okay, I've got 3 months. I'm going to train myself to shoot manually. And what I loved about traveling was you had the time to do that, and I could read about it in the evenings. I'd try things. I'd be like, okay, I'll try this with an ND filter now, and I'll do this with just different shutter speeds and get different effects. And then we'd see these amazing places. And one of the great things that makes photos is if you've got stunning backdrops, it's a hell of a lot easier. And in Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, which we were lucky enough to go to, there were some amazing things to photograph. And I didn't really film that much over there, actually. I actually made a conscientious effort almost to not do it because I wanted to take it in. I thought if I shoot video, I will treat it like a job. Which I don't know if I regret now, but I thought I would see it differently. Whilst do photography, I could keep going, think about the stills and keep going. I don't know. But I had a hell of a lot of photos when I got back to edit. And it was something like over 4,000 or something ridiculous. I've done the majority of them now, but sometimes, yeah, it's hard.
That's making me just want to do it right now because that's definitely something I want to do. And
I would definitely recommend it. Definitely recommend it.
Because when people go, oh, because I feel like that's a big thing that people worry about is you can't travel and work. But you did, and you also had a hobby. You did the 3 things that people think that they can't do at the same time, and you did it. So you proved it, everyone. That I'm hoping when people see this, they're like, oh, I can do that. Do you know what I mean? So brilliant. That was amazing.
I think with the opportunities, I kind of laid out some groundwork. So it was before I went to Australia. I didn't know I was going to get work this way, by the way. And couldn't pretend otherwise. I was, as much as I enjoyed traveling, I was slightly worried about getting a job when I got in the country because my partner's a nurse, so I knew that she would basically wherever she goes, nurses are needed. I knew she was basically fine, so I was like, I need to get myself sorted out. So before we even left, because we flew out in January 2018, whenever it was, yeah, I'd joined Facebook groups for jobs in Melbourne, and they weren't even video related, but it helped. Then you know what it's like on Facebook pages. There's another Facebook page that I found film editors in Melbourne, film and networking TV Australia. And suddenly I wasn't going to get all the jobs that were posted. But if you've got the communities that are posting these things, then my God, you can get something if you can, see what's out there kind of thing and decide what you're going to apply for. I tried all sorts of different websites there. It wasn't just Facebook. It was similar to CV and JobShare that we have here, but just Australian versions, that kind of thing. But I almost spied on them for 3 months casually to see the kind of things that might come up. So then when I got there, I could work out kind of what I could or couldn't do, really. So, yeah.
Nice. So a lot of pre-planning. And people who are listening to this, they can say, okay, if you can do that in Australia, you can do it in Britain. Do you know what I mean? So the same group, same stuff. So that's really, really good to know, because one of my questions was going to be what resources are out there to help and everything.
Yeah, so Indeed.com was actually quite good, but it wasn't the .com version. It was whatever the Australian version was. That was really good. I think Job CV was the other one. A lot of my stuff I've had has been through Facebook, but it's the pages you get into. So this is a really tenuous link, but we were talking about the importance of contacts and getting to know people in the industry. Someone I worked with at ITV was Australian, okay, and that was 10 years, almost 10 years ago now. Yeah, and then when I messaged him when I said, I'm coming to Australia, and he'd moved back at this point. So he said, oh, I've got this Facebook page that I'm on for jobs in TV. Now, at that point, I didn't really know if I was going to try and get TV roles, if I was going to try, because I've been doing corporate for 4.5, 5 years, or if I was going to do corporate. Never in a million years I dreamed I'd end up doing wedding videography and wedding video editing. But hey, this is how things work. and then that page led to me seeing these other jobs. Now, that was someone from 10 years ago who, I'll be honest, I'd met up with for one beer in the meantime in that space of time, hadn't seen. And he was like, oh, hey, yeah, cool. That sounds great. Let's meet up when you're over there. And that shows that how important these contacts are. Because if I'd never gotten that Facebook page, I never would have got that work. And when I landed, I never would have met Michael, who's I'm still working with now. And it's crazy how you can link it all back to one thing, but it just shows that's from one contact. So it's so important to network and to get those contacts, and I was about to say keep updated with them, but that's not what I mean really. It's just make a good impression. So if you do speak to them later, that you can call back on them and have that rapport with them. And also vice versa. What I did say to him, if you need any graphics or anything doing for anything, let me know because I will help you out with it. And you can do that because people have skills to offer you, but eventually, when you're starting up, not so much, but you will have things you can offer them that will help them too. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, exactly. I rub your back, you rub my back, sort of thing. And if you can do films and you need an editor, it's like everyone connects. Do you know what I mean? So that's brilliant. Again, like you're just showing that networking and contacts are a huge thing. Huge thing. Well, look, okay, I bet this is going to be a really hard question now for you. But what has been your best parts of your journey?
I find it really hard. I actually loved college.
From what you say, you're like, it sounds like it made you go, yes, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, it was the first time someone put an iMac in front of me and went, here's Final Cut. And back then it was Final Cut 7. And they gave us the basics of here's how you import, here's how you do this, how you do that. And initially I wanted to be a video editor. I had no real interest in filming, which is ironic now because now I film as much as I edit, if not more. And they said, if you want to learn different things, you can book the edit suite out. So we'd go and shoot stuff over the weekend or around the campus. At the time, In Between Us was big and Skin, so it'd be stuff like that, which looking back was quite awful. But we thought it was great, and we'd film these things and then just cut it together. And it was just a really good way to learn how to do things. We did horror films, we did action things, and just loved it, really loved it. And that years later, that kind of creativity, I think that's probably why I liked it. And this sounds very cliche, but it's probably the environment you could be the most creative because there was no kind of pressure. You did what you wanted to do and you learned what you wanted to learn and you made it. And what I really enjoyed was last summer I worked with a film school and we they're called the Mad Hatters Film Group, and they basically get kids of the age range we had was I think 8 to 12 or something, and we had 13 kids. And on day one, they came up with an idea, which was spy thriller. And then we just went out and shot with them for 4 days. It's basically like school. So they come in the morning, they have a drama teacher come in and they do some drama acting workshops. And then they go through their scripts. And then we go and shoot these scenes. And we had drones flying on the beach, chasing them like they were in a helicopter chase. And I CGI'd in helicopters. And we had, they were sneaking around the school like spies. And it was just really nice to have that creative flow again, as if we were back at college. It was just really nice, almost like guerrilla filmmaking, I suppose.
That sounds mint. That sounds so nice. And smaller children coming into teenagers are their imagination's brilliant, and they just want to go for it. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be a child again, but sometimes you wish you had that mentality of let's just go do it, let's go crazy. So that was so much fun.
It was really good fun, but it was also hard work because trying to keep 13 people on task when you've got 4 of them in the scene and 5 of them helping behind the scenes can be interesting. But it was great, and when they buy into the idea, they love it. And what was amazing was it was a very quick turnaround. We basically shot for 4 days, and on the end of the 4th day, they got to watch the finished film in a theatre with their parents. So we literally had to get it done. So I remember a very stressful lunchtime where I'm fixing a helicopter in post and getting the music finished, and you've got like an hour and a half left before the parents come or whatever. But it was so much fun, and seeing their reactions when they get to watch the films and stuff was great. Really, really cool. So I think that's probably one of my favourite things I've done, which mirrors back to being at college, I'd say, which was also one of my favourite things I've done. So.
Oh, that's so lovely, because I loved college as well. It was amazing for exactly the same reason. And everyone was always like, oh, no, uni's way better. I was like, no, 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 no. Uni was stressful. College was fun. And
Yeah.
like that's when I felt like my brain went, oh, you want to do this. It's so weird. I've never heard anyone else say that. So it's quite nice to know I'm not alone.
It's good because again, like you said, a lot of people. I really enjoyed university. I had nothing. There's nothing I didn't enjoy about it. I loved my course and all those things. But like you said, it was more stressful environment. Thinking about my dissertation, those kind of things. I actually really enjoyed my dissertation, which is quite a sad thing to say. But you know, I just university. I think I was. You're thinking about your career afterwards. Was at college, it seemed that bit further away. You didn't really have to worry about it. You just kind of, this looks fun. This looks great. I'm gonna go and do it. Great, let's learn how to do that. And I loved that. Really did love that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So, with your obviously the best parts of your journey, what are your aims now then? What are your aims and goals for like the future or near future?
That's a really tough question. My aim is usually I feel that I love LinkedIn, but I find it really hard sometimes because if I see a film, if I post something, I'm really pleased with it. And when you have other peers who also shoot and they say they like it, it feels amazing. But at the same time, when I then click on their profile and see their video, I think that looks amazing. How do they do that? And I think for me, my goal is always to reach that next target, which is not ideal because it's hard to be content with what you're doing. But I just forever see things that I want to not copy. That's not the word, but just I want to reach that level. So I think that's my aim is, I don't know, my aim changes weekly depending on what video I've just watched. But you know, when I was starting out, a lot of the thing was when DSLR filmmaking, again, this sounds so old, but DSLR filmmaking was just becoming a thing, and it was amazing that you could shoot video on a DSLR. And Philip Bloom, who done Sky videos and for the news for years, then he went and he does a lot of documentary shooting. I loved his style, and he made me think that I could buy any camera and film things like he could, which isn't quite true because he's amazing. But seeing what he can do, that's the kind of thing I suppose I aim to be. I mean, that's way in the future, but I love the way that he shoots, and when I shoot, I think everyone has their own style and you interpret it a different way, but I do think of the way he would do things. I don't know, does that answer your question or not really?
That does. And it actually answers my next question of what are your main hurdles, but it sounds like one of your main hurdles might be that you're never happy with your work, or you always want bigger and better, because I've seen your work and it's really good, but I can understand as being a creative, you're like, no, more.
It's really tough because as someone said to me, you should review stuff back after a certain amount of time, because when I cut, let's say, a story together or a wedding, so we do like a 15-minute edit or a 3.5-minute edit, all I see in a 3.5 is all the footage that I didn't use, or the cuts that didn't quite work, or the audio that had to move, which sounds really negative, but you do. Whereas if you watch it after you've done another 2 or 3 and go back to it, okay, that's pretty good. I like that. But you cannot see that at the time because you think for a 3.5-minute video, I don't know, let's say you've done anywhere between half a week to a week's worth of work. Your brain is so invested in that timeline, you don't see the finished video, even though the finished video is out there. You see the faults, and I think that's what I find hard. And I think I always see the next way I can improve. But I think I'm quite hard on myself sometimes as well. Which
Sounded, I'm going to be honest, John, you demo sounded. It pushes you.
Yeah, I definitely. And the other thing was, before I went traveling, I couldn't do any After Effects stuff. And the year before we went, I said every Sunday I'm going to get up and do 2 hours of After Effects from the basics from YouTube, and it was literally how to use keyframes, how to import text, how to do a 3D object, how to do this, and I would basically copy them till I could do them without watching them. Then a year and a half later, when I was doing the work for Live Nation, I was doing motion graphics projects. Now, if you would have told me a year and a half before I would have done that, I wouldn't have believed you at all. But because I'd pushed myself and I was maybe too negative on myself, I think it really helps me sometimes. Yeah, there's a balance, obviously, but I just think if you know what to work on, then you can push it and improve. Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. It's just, I always think like, and from the other interviews, it's like a creative person is never happy, but that's how you push yourself and that's how you get better, is because it's almost that ladder. Like you said, you probably didn't know, and I want to get into After Effects. I really, really do. And knowing that you did that and how you did that every Sunday, sit down, do 2 hours, sounds much nicer than sitting there for 20 hours, coffee there, trying to have a go. So that's a really good way. That's a really good mindset, even though it does seem a bit negative, but it's not, because you get positive out of it.
I think the thing is with it as well is find things you're already interested in. So I found tutorials for things like I copied quite a lot of styles I like. So it was how to make the text when Suicide Squad came out. So it's how to make the Suicide Squad 3D text and how to animate it, how to make the colors. And if you do enough tutorials, your brain works it backwards, and you can look at motion graphics and you can say, I know how to make that because I've watched 10 tutorials showing me all these different techniques. That things start to make sense, and when you can deconstruct it, you can then do it. And my brain now says I can look at most things and work out if I can make them or not now quite quickly. And the process, it might take me a hell of a lot longer than the person who's made it, but if you can at least understand that, that's good. It's a really nice feeling to then think you can then make something similar. Yeah.
God, I love it. So inspiring. I'm like, oh, I want to go to After Effects now, which is what I need to do.
Definitely do it. It's one of the best things I've done. I think it changed me from being, a corporate shooter or editor solely to, you can do motion graphics. A lot of what I do is kinetic typography, and that's exciting moving text with music and beats and that kind of thing, which I use quite a lot in my show reels. And for clients at the moment, because we can't film, that's a skill set which is really helping, because people still have messages to get across but they can't shoot stuff. So if they can use infographics and kinetic typography, then they can get messages across when they can't speak one-on-one or record things. So yeah, it's definitely worth doing. I would definitely recommend it.
God, Jen, it's like you take the questions out of my mouth. I was literally just going to say, now, because I've called this series Creatives Through COVID, how are you coping through COVID? And you pretty much said that you're using your talents to work through it. So, but how are you going through COVID, being a creative and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, initially the thought of lockdown, all it was terrifying, because you go from having shoots booked in for X amount of time, then they were wiped clean, and that was absolutely terrifying. There's no other way about it. But very quickly I adjusted and thought, what can I do? And I kind of gave it a grace period of, I don't want to be messaging people about my services at the moment. I know that there's a real thing on LinkedIn about when's it appropriate to approach people. So I thought I'll let the dust settle for a few weeks. And then I made an infographic video basically explaining what I could do for my clients at this time without shooting for them. And sent that around, which led to work, because people went, oh, I didn't realize I could do that, but if I can do some motion graphics, great, then we can get some stuff out there and get some messages across. I really miss filming though. I find that really hard. I know people are doing challenges where they film around the house and that kind of thing, but it's just not the same for me. I really miss that. And I miss dealing with people on shoots, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in a similar situation. But in terms of work-wise, I'm really grateful that I learned the After Effects thing, as we've just discussed, because that skill set now is helping me keep going in this time. And on top of that, I'm still doing some editing work for weddings and that kind of thing, which have been, which were from obviously before they were locked down, but that's helping keep me going. And then hopefully, touch words, eventually we'll be bit more back to normal, we can start shooting that kind of thing again. But obviously everyone's health is paramount at the moment, and then shooting and that kind of thing can come back when it's ready. Yeah.
Wow. So it's not hit you too bad. Obviously, it was really scary at the start. Cause I think, well, it'd be weird if no one was scared, because it's something that we're not used to. But it sounds like you've used your skills, and your skills have been really enlightened of what is now needed. So it's worked out pretty all good for you.
Yeah, I must say it worked out better than I expected it to. But it's I think the one thing I take from everything I said so far is, I think I've always tried to adapt to what's going on around me. And I think if you've got enough different things to pull from in terms of skill set, then you can adapt situations. Yes, it's terrifying, but my thought process was, okay, I can't shoot, what can I do? The only thing I thought was I can edit. Then I thought, well, a lot of people are going to be offering editing services now, but people haven't got the stuff to edit. So motion graphics seemed the logical thing to do. But what I mean by that is, if you can adapt to these scenarios if you've got different things to pull from. If I'd had everything invested in just shooting, I think I would have found it really difficult at the moment. What I'm trying to say was, I think people have always advised me, kind of, my dad, bless him, has always said, try and be as skilled in many different things, because then you can always have other things to lean back on. And that's kind of what I feel like I've done in this time as well. So yeah.
I guess what my question was going to be. What advice would you give to people?
Sorry.
Like, you're reading my mind. This is crazy. Would you like to give some more advice? Because that was brilliant. Adaptable. That's brilliant.
I think, a couple of things that I've taken from what I've done is be open to opportunities, because there's a lot of things that have opened up for me that I would never have dreamed of doing, because I wouldn't have thought they would have come up. But if you're flexible with things and you're happy to adapt, you can basically do anything. And also, sometimes things aren't too good to be true. Some of the best work I've had have come from Facebook posts where honestly it looked slightly dubious. I thought, what is this? I mean, my first with one client who won't name, the first thing I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and then it was a video for this project. And at the time I thought, there's no way this is legitimate. And I kind of did the work hoping I would get paid. And then it all came through and all went live, and it was amazing. But,
paid.
You got paid. But it's
God, my heart was going, I was like, you got paid.
What I'm trying to say is, just put yourself out for things. And also, it's that old cliche, but it is true. If you genuinely love what you're doing, it won't feel like work. And obviously there are days where it's hard, but if you really love it, then it doesn't matter almost. I mean, I love editing, always have, always will, and I will quite happily sit at that desk for hours on end and have to be dragged away because I can see the end of the edit in sight, and I love it that much. I don't want to leave it. But there is a balance, and I think one thing lockdowns taught a lot of people at the moment is a healthy balance between, actually going outside, having a walk, doing all these things, and thinking more about our health. So my advice would be, try and get a good routine, love what you do, and don't be afraid to, just because you're not good at something, don't just say I'm not good at it, I'm going to leave it. Work on it, because you're only helping yourself, and then you're making yourself more employable, which in this industry, because it is really tough, is a hard gig if you can't do multiple things. But the more things you can do, the more things you can apply for. So I think it just helps out. Wow,
John, that's a brilliant. I'm glad that you gave me more than one, because I was ready for more advice, and that's really, really good advice. It's what people need to hear. And don't let COVID worry you. I like how you added that in, and health. That's a brilliant thing, because I do feel like some of us filmy, editing people sometimes forget that you are allowed a life. Yeah. You leave that screen.
It's the one thing I will say about our industry, and I absolutely adore what I do, but when I started first freelancing, I genuinely forgot to leave the house some days, and I was like, it's been 3 days I've not left the house at all. And it was this shocking moment of realizing it. And it sounds cheesy, but if you're really into the project, you can quite comfortably do it. But times like this has made people really think about it, and that's been good. But yeah, we are in a field where there are long hours. That is one pre-warning for anybody just thinking about this industry. And if you really want to do it, there are days where you do really long hours, especially on shoots and that kind of thing. And it is important to look after yourself. It really is, because it can be a hell of a lot more difficult if you don't look after yourself in the long run. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, John, you've done all my questions, unless you wanted to add anything else in.
No, I don't know what else to.
It's all been so good. It's been so nice to hear a different perspective as well of like how you went traveling, how you networked, how you did it so young. Because the people I've talked to have actually not started young. They've always gone, oh, I started older. So it's been really nice to hear that someone in college, like myself, found the passion there. Because it shows that you can find a passion whenever, and you are very adaptable, very adaptable. Even country adaptable, which is amazing. That's so good. And I'm just so grateful that you've done this, because I feel like it's going to really inspire some young people who might be having some like a bit of anxiety with the uni degrees and stuff. So thank you very much, John.
Great. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.